Well, good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back, and I have an interesting video for you. Today, I want to talk about using turpentine as a fuel for a backpacking stove. Now, there was a comment that was left recently on my video with the Light Universal, and the question was, could you use turpentine as a fuel in that stove? Now, I have gotten rid of that stove. I gave it to a very good friend of mine, so I don't have that stove, but what I do have here is the Optimus Polaris. Now, I've done some testing off camera and I've done some research, and I can honestly tell you that from my experience, yes, you can use turpentine as a fuel. However, it's a very dirty fuel, it's a very sooty type of fuel, and I would not recommend using it if you were going to be on a backpacking trip trying to use it in your tent's vestibule or something like that. So it's definitely something that the priming process is very dirty, it's very sooty, very black smoke. In fact, it's worse than kerosene and worse than diesel. But once the stove gets primed up, it does heat pretty well, puts out a nice hot flame. So yes, from what I have found, you can use this. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and prime the stove. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and we'll see how it goes. This tank is already pumped up, it's already up to pressure. There. Got a little break in the wind, just enough to get it lit. So let me turn this off, because it doesn't take much fuel to prime. So let me back the camera out a little bit. You can see that there's a lot of smoke. It's a very dirty fuel. You can see just like on the tip of my finger where I touched that, it got real sooty. If you look at the trail of smoke, you can see just smoke everywhere. But this is only for the priming step. Once the stove's primed, it actually does pretty well. You can see that's black smoke everywhere. Looks like a oil refinery burning or something. It's kind of crazy. Obviously, you can see the wind's helping out today. So the whole purpose of the priming step is to get the stove hot enough to where it can start turning the liquid fuel into a gas. And we're almost there. Looks like we're fully primed now. I'm going to zoom in on the stove and let you take a closer look here at what's going on. Not a bad looking flame. Still has yellow tips right now, but once this thing gets really hot and really heated up and primed well, those yellowish tips will go away, and we'll have a very nice blue flame. But you can see all the soot that I'm getting on my finger off of touching all of this stuff. It's kind of a filthy fuel. So it's just a matter of time until it gets hot enough. And of course the wind's not helping too much. Now I don't know if this fuel will affect the O-rings in the pump. I'm not sure if it'll affect the little ball that's on a spring, that the check valve, if you will, on the pump. I don't know if it'll damage the pump is what I'm saying. So I would recommend doing this at your own risk, because I can't, just because I say that it works here doesn't mean that you need to go out and buy turpentine and use it as your fuel. This is just something I'm using. In fact, I'm not even using, if you look at the pump that I'm using here, I'm not using one of my best pumps. I'm using an old kind of crappy pump that came off of one of my China special stoves. So I'm not using my Optimus pump. I didn't want to risk that Optimus pump getting damaged, so I'm using a kind of a crappy pump, something easy to replace for this experiment. And I will tell you that if I notice anything in the future about damage to the pump or anything as a result of using turpentine, I will make a follow-up video and I'll show what's happened or whatever. But as of right now, yes, it's a viable fuel option. Again, it wouldn't be something that I'd recommend, and it wouldn't be one of my top fuels by any choice. It would be something as a last resort, in my opinion. You know, I still have plenty of flame control. Of course, that's the design of this stove. You know, you can see that there's a lot less yellow flames as there was, and they will continue to get less and less as this thing gets hotter and hotter. But you can tell that the soot is all gone. It's not sooting anymore. There's a nice look at the flame itself. And if you look on the side of the burner bell here, you can see like some soot dancing around. I'll try to get a better glimpse of that. See that soot there dancing around? Right there where my stick is. See all that? So what I'm doing right now by flipping that fuel canister over is I'm trying to get the air out of this can and kind of bleed this line out. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I don't know how good this pump is going to be at doing that. In fact, I might have to, there we go. Once I stick that leg out there, that seems to have done it. So this is just going to depressurize the whole system, and it'll make it safe for me to disconnect the pump from the fuel bottle. So I'll wait till that hissing stops. So let's go ahead and disconnect here. Now I'd like to take a look at this pump and see if there's any damage to the O-rings or anything like that on the pump that is visually notable. So there is the fuel inside. That's the turpentine. When I look at the pump, I don't see any damage yet. Pump still sounds good. This thing has kind of a nasty smell to it, this fuel. In fact, what I'm thinking about doing right now is I'm thinking about taking all these parts and washing them just because I don't know if it's going to eat this rubber seal up or not. So I think the best option would be to clean it all up and wash it, because I don't know how it's going to affect these O-rings. You know, this check valve here. It doesn't look like there's any swelling on the O-rings or anything like that. So far things look good. Looks like the pump held together just fine. So we should be good to go, but I'm still going to wash all this. I would recommend that you take this at your own risk. I don't know, I'm not saying that it's going to work perfect or anything like that. All I'm going to show you is what I've shown in this video. And personally, for me personally, I would not use this as my first choice by any means. I'd use white gas or gasoline or kerosene or lamp oil or something like that. They're much cleaner, and I know that those fuels are not going to damage O-rings and things like that. Thank you to the person that left the comment asking this question. It was a good video idea. I want to clean out the system. I just got this pump out. I cleaned it all, took it and cleaned it, and what I'm going to do again is I'm going to run some regular fuel through it. I've got my Optimus fuel here. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what fuel is in this bottle, but I do know that it's probably white gas or gasoline or something. I know that the fuel that's in this bottle is a fuel that I can absolutely use in my stove, so I'm confident in that. And all I'm trying to do is clean out the system. I'm trying to clean out the fuel lines and things like that before I put this pump away. I already cleaned all the parts. I just want to clean the internal of the pump and stuff like that, and just kind of get some good fuel through it. Let's kind of clean out the system. Probably seeing all that soot, probably residual turpentine that was left in the system. So that'll clean up, I'm sure. And once I get to the actual fuel that's in that bottle, I'm sure that things will be a lot better. This must have been a kerosene or a lamp oil or something, because it's got a lot of soot too. But again, that's probably the leftover turpentine that's creating all that soot. That's the beautiful thing about the Polaris, is you don't have to think about what fuel you have in here, because you don't have to change jets on the stove. If you're watching this video because you're interested in the Optimus Polaris stove, I can honestly tell you that this is a fabulous stove. I take it on quite a few trips, and like I mentioned earlier, it's really nice because I don't have to worry about what fuel is in the canister, because I don't have to change the jets according to fuel type like I do on the MSR Whisperlight Universal. But changing the fuel jets based on fuel type is actually a good thing, because you get the optimum performance per fuel. So there's kind of a thing there where you got to decide what is more important to you. Okay, there we go. We're almost primed. As soon as the flames die down below, we'll get nice, beautiful blue flames. So I'm just going to let that run for a couple minutes and clean out the system. And folks, I want to say thank you for joining me today on this video on using turpentine as a fuel for your backpacking stove. I would suggest that this would not be my #1 choice by any means for fuel, but it would be a good alternative if there was nothing else, or if I needed an emergency fuel. I would definitely not hesitate getting turpentine if that's all that I had available. So you can see that this flame is very blue. This is normal fuel that's ran through this stove, and remember, the turpentine still had a little bit of yellow tips on the flames. So again, thank you for stopping by. I hope this helped you out, and appreciate you watching, and have a beautiful day, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye bye now.